Welcome to Workday Recruiting. In this session, we'll examine the various subprocesses in the job application business process. The job application business process is dynamic. This means that there are many possible next steps an application can route to during the recruiting process. These next steps are essential subprocesses in the job application business process. Think of subprocesses as mini workflows within the main workflow. These mini workflows are linear. This requires you to complete the current step to move to the next step within the subprocess. At the end of the subprocess, you can decide whether to move forward or decline the candidate. Let's explore each subprocess further. The first step in the job application business process, known as the initiation step, is the review candidate step. When a candidate applies for a job, the designated recruiting user will navigate directly to the requisition, review the resume or cover letter, select the screen button, and then elect to either move forward or decline the candidate. Recruiting users can also find job applications ready for review directly on the job requisition, in the recruiting hub in the review step of the My Candidates Card report, the job requisition workspace, and the candidate job applications report. Next, we have the screen subprocess. The screening subprocess filters out unqualified candidates early on, initiated by moving them to the screen step. When a candidate moves to the screen step, three things happen. The task becomes available in the Screen Tasks card in the Recruiting Hub. The designated recruiting user receives a task in their My Tasks. And finally, Workday sets the candidate status to Screen. The screener can also act from the screen step. From here, they can elect to either move forward or decline the candidate. The Assess Candidate subprocess allows for an additional opportunity to assess candidates. Depending on business needs, you can assign a status to aptitude metrics like a skills test or a questionnaire that the candidate completes during the application process. When a candidate moves to the assessment step, three things happen. First, the Assess Candidate task becomes available in the Assessment Tasks card in the Recruiting Hub. Subsequently, the designated recruiter receives a task in their My Tasks. Finally, Workday sets the candidate status to Assessment. In the Assess Candidate step, you can assign assessment tests, a status, and a status date. The final step of the business process prompts the assigned user to either move forward or decline the candidate. To put this into perspective, let's examine a specific example. I have an open accountant position that requires a candidate to take an Excel skills assessment. First, Workday routes a task to whoever will document this test. For this example, let's say it's the recruiting manager, Amelia Cassius. Amelia then has an opportunity to select the test, the results of the test date, and add any additional comments. Once the candidate completes the assessment, Amelia can determine and document if the person passed or failed the Excel exam. After submitting the documentation, Workday routes the process to the recruiter, Carmen, to decide to move forward or decline. A job requisition can also include an inline assessment. With this option, the test triggers during the candidate's initial application, not during the Assess Candidate business process. Some organizations integrate with an assessment vendor. An integration allows the results of the assessment to display in Workday during the review stage. However, you can also manually input assessment results. Let's move to the next subprocess, the interview step. During this step, you can schedule a meeting with the candidate. For different roles, candidates may require a different number of interviews. If your company needs to complete multiple interviews for a candidate, then your job application process should allow you to return to the interview step as often as needed. Let's review an interview process now. From the Recruiting Hub, I selected a candidate that I need to schedule an interview for. I've entered the interview date. However, the hiring manager defaulted in as the interviewer, as well as one other. My organization could also have additional interview teams default if needed. I need to adjust to the interview team by selecting the Remove Row icon to remove the extra interviewer. If I did this after scheduling an interview, Workday would automatically remove the interview task from their My Tasks. After an interview, the interviewers must provide feedback in Workday. The interviewer can find the Give Interview Feedback task in their My Tasks. In the Interview Feedback section, the interviewer will rate and comment on the candidate. Then, in the Additional Questions section, the interviewer can add any more details about the interview. Finally, in the Overall Feedback section, the interviewer can add an overall rating and overall comment before submitting the feedback. Let's take a moment now to review how to manage interview feedback. When an interviewer submits feedback, the next step is for the recruiter to review it. A recruiter can view this task from the Job Requisition Workspace page, the candidate's job application page, the Recruiting Hub from the Interview Tasks card, or as a My Task item. Here's the Manage Interview Feedback task for a candidate. Recruiters can view the interviewer ratings and comments before submitting them. Once submitted, they can decide to add an additional interview, move forward, or decline the candidate. Here, I've navigated to the candidate profile to view the feedback for a candidate. From the Interview tab, I can review the interview schedule and interview feedback subtabs. Now that the interview is done and feedback is complete, what's the next step? Well, a manager must decline or move forward with an offer or employment agreement. In the next scenario, the hiring manager wants to make an offer. So, let's cover the offer and employment agreement subprocesses first. Here's an example of the offer and employment agreement processes in Workday. The offer step allows you to create and present the candidate with the details of your employment offer. It can also consist of the base salary, one-time payments, and stock grants. But hiring policies vary by organization, and yours may need to generate offers with more legally binding details. Employment agreements are similar to offer letters, but they include some additional details, such as collective agreement, notice period, probation period, and contract details. Your organization can generate and have candidates sign both an offer letter and an employment agreement document, as long as it's set up that way in your tenant. Then, from the job requisition, Workday pulls the compensation details. Afterwards, you can generate a document with approval and review steps. If something should change, like the start date for example, you can regenerate the offer letter. The compensation also flows into the staffing business process. Like the previous subprocesses we've discussed, a few things will automatically occur in Workday. First, in the Recruiting Hub, the Offer Tasks card becomes available. Then, the designated recruiting user receives the offer task in their My Tasks. Workday also sets the candidate status to Offer. Additionally, the system creates a pre-hire record for the candidate. This is part of the initiation step for the offer process. When you have the offer details, you can generate or attach an offer letter. If available in your tenant, you can have Workday send the candidate the offer letter for their sign-off. In addition, a recruiter can document the status of the offer, such as verbal offer or written offer. If you send the offer letter to a candidate with a Candidate Home account, the candidate accepts or declines the offer there. If accepted, the candidate enters the hire business process, and Workday uses the offer details to populate Workday compensation. If the candidate declines, the recruiter receives a task to determine the next step in the offer process. Let's view this in action. Remember the candidate that interviewed earlier? Since the interview results were positive, Carmen wants to move forward with making an offer. Carmen opens the offer task from My Tasks. From the Start page, she selects the Edit icon. The first step is to enter the offer date and then select Next. Then, on the Compensation page, Carmen navigates to the Salary section, reviews the populated details from the job requisition, and selects Next. Now, on the One-Time Payment page, Carmen will select the Add button to add a signing bonus for the candidate and then select Next to continue. The stock grant page is next. We won't add any grants. Finally, Carmen will review the offer details and select Submit. It's likely that your system has been set up to generate an offer letter after the hiring manager approves compensation. So, Carmen reviews the offer letter and then generates the offer document. The offer template consists of text blocks used to generate the offer content. These text blocks contain static text and fields. Fields enable you to retrieve specific data values like approved salary and business title. This ensures that you can customize each offer letter for each candidate. Your offer letter layout may include other elements, such as your company logo or stationery. Workday will also apply any condition rules created for these text blocks to further automate the offer process. You may have one or more review offer steps to ensure the correct reviewers in your company review or sign the offer letter. Your company may use the Workday e-signature, DocuSign, or Adobe eSign feature to obtain sign-off. If your company instead uses an employment agreement, the designated recruiting user receives a My Tasks item, and Workday sets the candidate status to Employee Agreement. Initiation of the Employee Agreement step converts the candidate to a pre-hire status. You can also generate or attach employment agreements for contingent workers who apply for a requisition with an employee worker type. Once you decide on a candidate, the need to verify their qualifications remains. This brings us to the next subprocess, reference checks. Some companies require a confirmation of the candidate's character, background, and experience by contacting personal and professional references. This subprocess can run parallel to others. When you move a candidate to the reference check step, the designated recruiting user receives a My Tasks item, and the candidate status is set to reference check. Candidates can indicate their references. Then, referees can respond to a questionnaire or decline it. Recruiters can add and manage references throughout the process. This step concludes with a decision to move forward or decline. Next, let's review another common element of the job application process, the background check subprocess. For many companies, the background check is an important subprocess in the job application process. This step lets you confirm the candidate's credit, driving records, criminal records, and security clearances. Typically, companies use third-party vendors to conduct background checks. Your background check package may display the results in the screening profile group of the candidate profile. When you move a candidate to the background check step, Workday creates a pre-hire record and sets the candidate status to background check. Workday also sends a designated recruiting user a My Tasks item. Then, the recruiting user can assign a background check package to the candidate. You should be aware that the background check results only automatically display in Workday if you have an integration. The integration also provides a link to your vendor's site. This allows you to review the background check details. If your organization doesn't have an integration, you'll need to check the results and manually select a status like Pass, Fail, or Pending. Once you obtain the background check, you can then decide to either move forward or decline the candidate. We've covered a lot so far, but this has led us to the final subprocess in the job application, the Hire subprocess. As a reminder, the Hire subprocess will always be the final one in the job application business process. In the Hire subprocess, the Ready for Hire step is the handoff from one business process to another. Your company's job application business process determines from which steps you can move a candidate to the Ready for Hire step. This allows you to take final actions before a hire or transfer process begins, such as automatically unposting a job or collecting final questionnaire data from the candidate. Let's demonstrate this by hiring our candidate. Now that the candidate has passed the background check, Carmen will initiate the hire, then review the filled job requisition. Starting from the candidate's profile, Notice the Ready for Hire button. Notice here, when there's only one option to move the candidate forward, the only button option that displays is Ready for Hire. When Carmen selects a button, she receives a My Tasks item. Carmen reviews the details of the hire task and, when ready, selects the Submit button. The job application process is now complete. The final action in the job application business process now moves the candidate to the staffing process as a new hire. And here, on the job requisition page, we notice that the position is filled. In this session, we detailed each subprocess in the job application business process. Thank you for taking the time to learn with Workday.